Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan AGAJAINIan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're taping here at the Hollywood Museum in the historic Max Factor building, and our guests are photographer Alex Wandael and actress, musician Sarah Underwood Saviano. Photographer Alex Wandael was born and raised in Bolzano, Italy. He graduated with a degree in architecture from the University of Ferrara and went on to practice architecture in Berlin and New York. His fashion photographs have been published in German, Italian, and Russian Vogue magazines. They're in the permanent collection of the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City, and he's been in exhibits around the world. In fact, he's in an exhibit right now at the Cornell Art Museum, and you were in the Denver Art Museum for the fantastic portrait that you did of me.
Exactly.
but that was like for the press.
Exactly. That was just for the press. Instead, in Florida,
yes,
it's part of the collection.
But in Delray at the Cornell, it's part of the collection.
Yeah.
He's fantastic, and he did my portrait, and so I'm going to ask him just a little bit about it right now, because the portrait is really great. Yeah. Talk about how we did it and where we went.
Okay, so basically, thanks to Raymond, I met you and
Raymond Lee.
Raymond Lee, exactly, and you asked me to do a portrait for this exhibition, and in the meantime, beside just the portrait, I did kind of an artwork.
Yes.
That basically was inspired by the exhibition itself. So you were basically portrayed by most famous artists in this century, and so the idea was basically to create your portrait, but fragment it in different pieces. So really to talk about the fact that so many creative people did a portrait of you. So basically it was a reflection of the exhibition itself.
And then we went to UCLA and we were in front of this fantastic sculpture.
Exactly. So that was what inspired too, the location where we use, which was the wall of Buri in UCLA, which is already basically a fragment, a fragmented
pieces. I
wall.
know, they're so great.
Exactly. So that was the idea, the structure gave the idea to, use location and your portrait.
And so that's the art part of what you do. That's the artistic part of what you do. But then when we used your portrait of me, which went in the Denver Art Museum press release, it was totally different.
Yeah, that was just a more, more like a portrait.
Would be like a fashion, like what you would do in fashion magazine, or
probably yes, like a portrait of a celebrity, or
like what you've done. So let's get back to when you went to school. You went to architecture school.
Exactly. So
I think that's very typical of what Italians do, don't they?
It's pretty common. I mean, you study photography, you use photography in architecture. So I think a lot of students, they get somehow in love with photography. It's another way
after school, after architecture school. Why'd you go to architecture school?
Well, no, I love architecture. Obviously, I was in love with the artistic part, the humanistic part of architecture, and photography. I think is becoming the same thing.
But that came out of it, right? Because you worked as an architect.
Yeah, I worked 3 years in Berlin as an architect and 8 years in New York.
And then, how did you? What kind of work were you doing in Berlin and then in New York? Were they comparable?
Yeah, I mean, architecture, different, obviously different projects, but similar.
Commercial or?
Yeah, building galleries, museums, different projects. In New York, I was working a lot on projects in the Russian republics like Kazakhstan, all, these new.
From the New York office?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
New York office, like China, all the part of the world where like, they're building a lot.
Yeah.
So in Berlin, instead, I was working more like in Berlin. So they were building like conversion of factories, like more like Berlin projects.
Oh, that's great. You mean like changing an old factory into
repurposing,
really, right?
Exactly. When I went to Berlin, it was like in '97. It was like, the boom, like for architects. It was like when
all
Berlin
the buildings were so great, though. Didn't you want to keep the facades of the buildings?
Oh, right, yeah. I mean, like, all the buildings were like were being built in that moment. So it was really for a young architect, it was like fantastic.
And then were you doing photographs at the time?
Yes, actually, like I learned like photography at architecture.
Oh,
in
you
architecture,
did?
yes,
Oh, you did.
at the university, and actually it was like a professor that was teaching us museum and exhibition, and he taught us like even like photography, black and white, film, dark room. So I really fell in love with.
Oh, so in architecture school, so that you actually learned so that you can take, I guess, photographs of your work.
Exactly, and like I mean, architects, they always use photography because like when you have to speak, like you have to present a project, you have to explain like where the project is, like
but is it
the
always
environment.
Your own? Is it always your own?
Usually the students are the one like taking picture of like the project and everything.
Yeah.
So basically it was part of us. But this professor, which actually his name is Maurizio Di Puolo from Rome, he was really like a big influence because he told me like to keep doing photography when I was becoming an architect. And so that's what I did in Berlin.
Oh, so you already had a camera in your hand, right?
Yes, I was carrying a camera. And so basically I was working as an architect during the weekend. During the weekend I was taking portrait, street photography, everything what I really liked. And then like working in the dark room.
And you were working in the dark room?
Yes.
Did you develop your own? You were using film probably then,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, we are talking about 97, 98, 99. So,
right.
yeah. And there I studied too, like in Berlin. I went to a gallery and I studied like dark room and all the possibilities you can do with darkroom, which are like
manipulating. So that was the art photography part of it, right?
Exactly, it was the beginning of the experimentation. Like solarization, all that things, multiple exposure that you can do, and you can do it in the camera. You can do like in the darkroom.
You do it all in the darkroom, or you can do it on the camera too.
Yeah, primarily then I started to do it like in the camera.
Like the portrait we were talking about that you did of me looks like you've taken a wire or wires and put it on top of it.
Yeah,
you said it was
another
fragments.
Exactly, it's fragment, but it's still again the same process, which is one of my favorite processes. Like create layers in the image, so you have like create layers.
I see. So when did you decide to actually give up architecture and become I'm going to say fashion photographer, because that looks like where your career began.
Yes, actually, like when I dropped architecture in New York, I started to do fashion photography as primary.
And you were getting jobs.
Yes,
because that's hard to do.
Yes, actually, like luckily I start to have like good clients, and I start to work quite a lot.
So did you work with magazines? Is that where you went? How did you get your first fashion job?
Yeah, first of all, like I had like this girlfriend, and
oh, that's it.
She was a fashion stylist, so we started to work together, like and do like photo shoot together, and then like from that, like we increase our portfolio, and we start to work with a different client, different magazine.
You were working a lot with Vogue.
Yeah, I did some work for Vogue Italia and Uomo Vogue.
So you knew Italian Vogue. I mean, you had a connection because you're Italian?
Well, yeah, perhaps I met like some people and they show my work, and they send it to Milano and they showed there. So it was like.
And then Russian?
Russian Vogue, I did like some portraits. I did some stuff for Russian Elle. Mainly.
But the Russians loved your work. You got some kind of award?
Yeah, this year actually, like that was. A good news. I got like the first prize at the Moscow International Photo Awards.
That's
for
fantastic.
Fashion and editorial.
Did they have like a biennale or a photography show fair?
They do, like they have an exhibition there in Moscow, but the photo was really nice because it was an editorial we did like with Jennifer Missoni.
So back to fashion, right? It was a fashion
that
thing?
was a fashion. Yeah, the award, like the first prize I received, it was like fashion editorial.
So it was great that you went into fashion. What can you, as a photographer, do for fashion?
Well, I mean, like always, like as every fashion photographer, create,
Right.
create image, ideas. Like creativity is a part of the process. Come up with new idea for new photo shoot.
But you have a whole team working with you. How does
No, yeah, exactly. The
Isn't
fashion
that right?
photography is very tricky because like you have to have like a great team.
Right.
Everyone has to work really well. Like from the stylist, from makeup artist, hairstylist. It's a
location?
location or studio.
Right.
Like it depends like from
Right.
the fashion because like fashion photography, I think it's 50-50 fashion and then photography.
That's what I'm wondering. And then what about theme? They give you a theme to work for
Yeah,
too, right?
magazine, the director, editors, they have like, they know what they want like for that season, that collection,
So I always think it's hard for the photographer to put his stamp on it because there's such a big group of people around it.
Yeah, that is the part, like the most difficult part, it's like to try to get like your signature.
So when you have your signature, I know you did 2 books on road trips that you took.
Yeah, that
which is more your own work, right?
That is something aside. It's more my passion, like motorcycle and
Right.
photography. So I start
Right.
to do like motorcycle trips, like 1 month trips alone, like on the road.
And you took photos all the way along?
Yes, people, places,
And then one of the other things that I wanted to ask you before we left is this project that you've done with Italians.
Yeah, that is still an ongoing project that I'm curating the project and is all my baby.
And how do you find them, people to photograph?
It's tricky. It's kind of like a domino effect. Whenever I shoot someone, like they refer me to someone else, and so it's almost like a net, like kind of a domino effect. Like I didn't want like to go to the
What kind of people? What are they? Are they people who do things?
No, the project is 360 degrees. So, from like all the profession, age groups, male, female, for me, it's very interesting to understand or to try to find out, talking about these people.
Not celebrities then?
Celebrity
Italian
too.
celebrities too?
So I have a couple of celebrities in the project too, like very well-known Italians. And, but even like, people that you don't know, I think is kind of like is an historical picture in this moment of the Italian that they decide to leave Italy.
Oh, who left Italy? They're
Yes.
all here in the U.S.
Exactly. They are
Oh, I
all
see.
living here and they decide to leave Italy and come here. And, each on like they have their own reason to leave Italy.
Do they give the story? Do you tell a story with it? Or
Yes,
do
because along with the portrait, which usually is shot on location, like and decided with the subject, like usually like it's going with an interview where like on all the people I ask the same questions.
Oh, so you're...
And that is tied in the project together.
And it's probably, why did you leave Italy?
Perhaps, yes.
You won't tell us. But, and I know, talking about Italy, you do a lot of commercial work for like Bulgari and Laura Piano.
Yes, I did like I do and I did like I have like good roster of clients. And so I'm still working with them. Some of them, the clients are always changing, like in the fashion world.
But are they always fashion in the commercial world that you're doing? Is it always attached to fashion?
Depends. Yeah, it depends. Like I think one of my love is portraits. So it's like sometimes it's going from portraiture to fashion. It depends. Like I did a lot of portraits for different magazines as well, which I really like because probably that was the passion that made me change from architecture to photography. My love for portraits.
Your love for portraits. You were like the perfect person to be in the portrait show. Thank you so much, Alexa, for being with us.
Okay.
Show me your tattoo before we go. What is it?
This is like basically like they are drawing. They are inspired by the Scythian. Scythian were like these people living between Europe and Mongolia, and they were like a nomadic tribe people. And they find 3 mummies, and 1 woman, a princess, and 2 knights. And all three, they had like completely the arms that were tattooed. And we are talking about 2,500 years ago.
Is that right?
Yes.
Fantastic. So you replicated it.
And they were all animal. No, I just got inspired and I modified them and I fit them on my arm. But I find fascinating that 2,500 years ago people were like completely tattooed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was very nice.
Thanks for watching. Don't go away. We'll be right back with Sarah Underwood Saviano. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're taping here at the Hollywood Museum, and you know it's in that iconic Max Factor building on Highland Avenue. And we're with our guest, musician, actress, Sarah Underwood Saviano, who was born and raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Columbia, Missouri. She went to DePaul University and Cal State Long Beach. Her acting skills and her expert jazz saxophone playing has put her on stages around the world, not only in the United States, but in France, Germany, and China. So we're going to talk to her about this Sheila Delaney play that she's in, A Taste of Honey. It was written in 1958, and it's like so today, isn't it? What brought you to acting or music? Which came first?
Oh, wow. Well, it's funny you should say that because when I was, I'm the fifth of five in a family.
I was going to ask you, is it in your family?
Yeah.
What's in your family?
My mother was a violinist, a wonderful violinist.
Oh, so it's in the family.
Music.
Those are in the genes, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. And then a lot of histrionic disorder and drama.
Oh, so that's why you're an actress?
And
Was that in Tulsa, or was that in...
There was all everywhere we went. It went with us.
But with 5 people, of course you're going to have the drama.
With 7, yeah, 5
Oh,
kids.
7.
Yeah, I'm the fifth of 5. So I guess in psychological terms, I'm what's called the mascot of the family. I read that once in some psychology book. So the mascot is...
Oh, the mascot.
Yeah, his or her job is to entertain the troops, if you will. Keep everyone happy, keep everything at peace. And I did
Keep it level.
That's right.
Keep it level. That's a big duty.
It is. And
But they all love you because you're the baby.
yeah, it's true. It's true. I have a beautiful family. I love my family. I'm so grateful for them.
So because of loving you, then you can keep them in tow, right?
Yeah.
So how did you do that?
Well, partially I did impeccable impersonations of all of them. Apparently, I seem to recall that the one time the whole family would sit down to do something together was to watch me do my impersonations, or do my fish, or my whatever I did back then. And
Wow.
I realize now, yeah, that's really where it maybe started. And acting. And my mother sent my sister and I to ballet. My sister is a extraordinary ballet dancer, or was in her life.
Oh, she was. Did she dance professionally?
No, she didn't. She made other choices, but I'll just never forget how breathtaking she was, how her energy would flow through her and so far beyond her body.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it makes me want to cry when I think about it. And I learned a lot about the body on stage from her, actually.
That's really interesting because you need that presence as a musician, don't you?
You have to have it in everything.
And your mother must have had it as a violinist.
She was shy. She did. Oh, she was
was like
extraordinary. She would play an adagio like nobody's business. There was just so much in her that wanted to come out.
So it sounds like the ballet in a way, too.
Yeah,
like
sure.
Did you play any other instruments?
I played clarinet, tenor saxophone, soprano saxophone, alto saxophone, and tenor. Yeah, that's it.
But not violin. You didn't,
No.
or piano.
I used to saw away at the violin. You know, we had those little tiny mini violins then. I played some piano. I wish I had stayed with that. That would have really served me in my life.
Did she make you take lessons? Make you? I'm saying make you, right?
No, actually, she did make us take piano lessons. And I remember my teacher, I could say her by name, but I won't, how she slapped the piano bench once in Columbia, Missouri, and I flew off of it and then just began weeping while trying to play something because I kept making the same mistake.
Oh, kept making I know.
yeah.
I
So
did
it's
that in class today, too. I couldn't get my foot in the right place.
In dance class?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
But, you know, you're thinking,
Yeah, I know.
but you can't get it right.
I remember I was playing two-handed piano with a little boy that I had major
And she
crush on.
slapped it.
And I was just thinking about my love for Stephen Engelman, I think.
Of
I just said
course.
his name. So, but anyway, so yeah, the piano didn't leave the best taste. But
It is funny, though, because when people talk about their teachers, they always remember a teacher who was instrumental, and she must have been instrumental in pushing you on.
you know, in other, not her necessarily, but certainly my mother and other teachers I had musically and acting-wise. As an actress, it's David Herman, who was the head of acting at Long Beach City College.
Oh.
Because I actually I was out here for a while, and I did attend City College as a two-year college. He was an extraordinary acting professor that was there from England. And I was very fortunate, and that's why I stopped my training as a musician to become an actor trainer.
So that's actually where the change came, because you went to DePaul, and that was the Goodman School of Drama.
Yes, and before all that, I was, you know, in all kinds of little colleges playing in the bands here in California.
But not acting.
But not acting. And
Because that's a great school, right? Great drama
DePaul
school.
is the best. So I did 2 years at City College doing plays and taking classes, and I realized I want to go study at a conservatory. And I applied to what was DePaul, the theater school of DePaul University, founded as a Goodman School of Drama, and I was accepted and attended.
Then you went back there as an actress. But you were still carrying your sax with you,
well,
which
my
we're
sax
going to get to.
Yeah, it goes everywhere with me. And even if I try not to have it, you know, show up, actually at DePaul, two of the professors were creating, John Jenkins and Jim Ostelhoff were creating something called, at that time they called it Jazzmo. It's movement to music, impulse, action, movement.
Did they have a class of that?
Yes,
Yeah,
and they had a workshop, 4 to 5 hours a night. All of the actors, and Gillian Anderson from the X-Files was in it. I think Amy Peets, who ended up on Caroline in the City for 10 years. A bunch of major people were
In
doing
Chicago,
this. In
yeah.
Chicago, when we were in school.
So what were you doing? You were playing and trying to move with it?
Yeah, they were playing jazz, and word got around I was a sax player. So one night I brought my saxophone in, and I played. They faded the music out. Keith Jarrett song, and I faded in with my horn blowing, and they were all moving, and everyone got so excited that I became a part of that show for that fall.
Oh, wow.
And that was when I was a freshman.
But then that same group that you're talking about nominated you for your role in Patsy Cline, I think. Did you play? Was it part of that?
No, that was years later as a professional actress. I graduated and I started working in Chicago. I worked at all the major theaters. I was very fortunate. I got my equity card early, and I got hired to play Louise in Always Patsy Cline, who's actually the one who doesn't do much music or singing. There's a band, and there's somebody playing Patsy, but I was the fan of Patsy's who... if you read the biography, there's a 6-page account of one of her greatest fans, Louise, and how they spent an evening together and hung out and had breakfast the next morning, and that's what the play is based on.
That's such a great play.
It's a delightful play.
Yeah.
And I had the great fortune to do it at the North Light Theater in Chicago, and it was so successful, we moved it to the Apollo Theater in Chicago, which is a commercial venue.
Wow, yeah.
And I got my pay doubled. And,
Exactly. And
we
your
ran-
audience doubled.
The audience tripled.
Tripled.
And we ran for a year and 2 or 3 months.
You did? You played it that long? Who played Patsy at that time?
Oh, my God.
Did it change?
It did. I had Hollis Resnick, I had Megan McDonough, I had Alice Kerwin.
Wow.
I'm forgetting someone else.
And you're in there all the time.
Yeah, I was the Louise. I was like, bring in the next Patsy.
Right,
But
right.
it was a great time. And we actually threw my clarinet in at the very, very, very end for curtain call.
Is that right?
And I played Won't You Come Home, Bill Bailey?
You would do that on the curtain?
We did it on the curtain call, and it brought the house down. It was crazy.
That's fabulous. So talking about that and bringing the house down, you've traveled all over the world with acclaimed musicians and recorded.
Yes, and let me be real specific about this. Most of my more world travel, well, I have actually. I'm forgetting some things, but yes, I've worked with a band that went to Mirande, France, Branscombe Richmond and the Renegade Posse. Branscombe's a TV movie actor who has a band as well. I have worked with Robert Irving III of the Miles Davis Group in Chicago.
So you've played with all these
Yeah.
people, and you've recorded. Tom Saviano.
Tom Saviano's my husband.
And what did he do?
He is brilliant and very accomplished and has a lot of major credits as a composer, arranger, saxophonist. I met him on the stage of the Greek Theater June 9, 2007, and he was first tenor sax, I was second. And we've been together ever since, yeah.
Oh, that's so
He always
great.
says it's a good thing I was first tenor.
That's great. You were first tenor.
He was, yeah.
He was first tenor, right?
That's why it's working.
And Kenny Rankin?
Kenny Rankin, and I'm really glad you asked that, because I never, when I put it in my bio that I shared the stage with Kenny, we were both on the same evening, twice in a row, the exact same benefit. I played, and then he performed right after me.
Oh.
And very unfortunately, he passed away a few years later. But he stood and watched me, and he gave me one of the greatest quotes I've ever been able to use. And I really should probably get the okay with his son to use it in any real professional way. But he just said, I had a one-woman show with saxophone.
I know. I was going to talk about that. Sax Tracks, right?
Yeah, and it's just me.
Did he come and see it?
He was performing after me, so he just stood off stage and watched me.
Oh.
And the second night he came out and watched me, and he said something like, your show takes me on a ride. It takes me to the village in the '60s. And he said you can sing, you can blow, and you're funnier than a barrel of monkeys.
Oh, did he?
I always wanted to ask
And you're
him.
funny, right?
I want to say, can I put that in the
Right.
So
So what was Sax Tracks?
Sax Tracks is. Well, I haven't done anything with it in a while.
A one-woman show?
One-woman show where I play all these characters of musicians I've worked with over the years.
Oh,
and
interesting.
This is sort of the saxophone is the conjurer, and the wand, if you will, that takes us to the next person, next situation. It moves very fast.
And you use the same?
I use no. Actually, I play less alto than I do anything else. I'm a tenor player, so it's a tenor that I use.
So what is this?
This is the alto saxophone.
And this you're playing now in A Taste of Honey.
Yes, because A Taste of Honey is this character is a huge role to be working with, and she's not in the script a saxophonist. She is, however, somebody who went to all the pubs and sang, and she said, I bring the house down with this one. So we decided theatrically, can we get away with me picking up a sax and playing? That way we can have these moments that are poetic and otherworldly and now and future and all of these and dreamlike.
So you play this piece you're going to play for us in the play.
Yes, and
at the Odyssey.
Exactly, at the Odyssey Theater Ensemble, and A Taste of Honey is such a juicy, rich, passionate, rage-filled piece that it almost demands some jazz.
And
it almost demands music.
It was like so on the edge when she wrote it in 1958, and to get it on the stage, she was 18 years old.
She was 18 years old. She was so full of stuff that needed to come out, and jazz at the time was very sexually. I was just reading about the trad jazz world, and I know Sheila Delaney spent her time there, and it was just a lot of sexual vibes going on, if you will, and homosexuality, I think, was illegal at the time, and so she has a homosexual character. She has a biracial relationship. My character's description is Helen, a semi-whore who drinks too much.
Right, and she has drunks, she has drugs,
We
she
got
has
it all.
every sex, she has everything in that play. 1958.
Yeah, and it's great.
So why don't you play a little bit for us, and we're going to say goodbye.
I got it. Yeah, I love it.
Sarah Saviano at the Odyssey Theater and A Taste of Honey.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure.
Thanks for watching. Keep writing to JAQUINN1 at AOL.com. See you next time.